The team has a strong record of obtaining nationally competitive research funding. The team has a strong record of obtaining nationally competitive research funding.
Schools can play a part in molding the behavior of young people. Schools can play a part in molding the behavior of young people.
Philanthropic gifts are supporting a scholarship specifically for asylum seekers. Philanthropic gifts are supporting a scholarship specifically for asylum seekers.
Some cancers could be avoided by changing the food we eat. Some cancers could be avoided by changing the food we eat.
The security services team work around the clock to keep the campus safe. The security services team work around the clock to keep the campus safe.
Firms spend millions every year to make sure that they project desirable images of themselves. Firms spend millions every year to make sure that they project desirable images of themselves.
Most athletic shoes are worn for fashion and not for their avowed purposes. Most athletic shoes are worn for fashion and not for their avowed purposes.
The talents of young people who have an aptitude for sports and games should be nurtured. The talents of young people who have an aptitude for sports and games should be nurtured.
Passengers must ensure that they hold the appropriate visas before traveling. Passengers must ensure that they hold the appropriate visas before traveling.
The senator is well known for his misconduct and his transgressions. The senator is well known for his misconduct and his transgressions.
If you are feeling fed up, it is positive or negative feeling. What is the day that someone is born? What is the study of stars and planets called? Which one is not a mammal? Butterfly, goat, or cow? How many years are in a decade? How many months are in a year? If a figure is hexagonal, how many sides does it have? If telescope is used for far distant object, what instrument is employed for minuscule objects? How to measure the volume of water, in kilogram or liter? What do we call a period of 1,000 years? What is the opposite of east? A business does not want to make a loss. What does it want to make? Where do we find urban area in a city, or countryside? Who serve food in a restaurant? What do you call the document that gives details about your qualifications and work experience? What we call it when moon completely blocks out the light from the sun. If someone lives in the urban areas, where do they live? Who is a person that makes bread, cakes and pastries?
If someone feeling ill, they will say they are feeling under the what?
A specialist who repairs leaking water pipes is called a
How many lines are in given picture? Is this person looks angry or depressed?
Is this an office or a school?
How many buildings are in this picture?
What this electronic device called?
How much electricity generated by coal? What is this shape called? What is this animal called?
How many triangles are in given picture?
What time is in clock?
If you want to achieve your desired score, please visit ABROAD Zone Center. Thank you.
that music.
Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me? 'Cause I just wanna say
As you know, about a third of the world is covered in desert, and the sort of area they're found in is important. Deserts are usually created because the area of land where they lie is located in something that's called a rain shadow. Now, this is a region that's beneath a mountain range, and what happens is that the wind blows over the mountains towards the area, but as it does so, the air loses its moisture and becomes very dry. Because of this downwind location, rainfall often totals just a few inches a year, or in some regions, there's absolutely none. And you can imagine the effect of this. It means that whatever rain does fall evaporates quickly from the ground, and that makes the soil salty, and also leaves behind a whole range of other minerals as well. Now, despite this, deserts are home to many living things. In fact, they're second only to tropical rainforests in the variety of plant and animal species that live there. So, how do plants grow in a place that's so dry? Well, they're specially adapted to do this. In fact, many of the fascinating features of desert plants are adaptations. These are traits that help the plant survive in its harsh environment. And desert plants have two main adaptations. The first is that they have an ability to collect water and to store it. Some have large root systems and amazing internal water storage systems. The second adaptation is that they have features that can actually reduce water loss, and these are often very special leaf designs or additions to the plant structure. So let's have a look at some examples. Desert plants often look very different from any other plants. This first one is the saguaro cactus, which grows in North America. It looks a bit like an open hand with long fingers. This plant has a large network of roots that extend far, far away from its trunk, and these roots collect water after rain. Then the water's taken here to the green stem. This is where all its water is kept, and it keeps the whole plant alive until the next rain comes. It's a pretty woody plant. In fact, its skeleton is actually used in building materials, so it's quite strong. This next plant is called the barrel cactus, named because it does look rather like a barrel. It can grow up to 1 meter in height, which is pretty big, and it has long yellow spines. Now, this plant has an interesting adaptation because its shape allows it to expand when it rains, hence the barrel, and store water in its spongy tissue. But then it shrinks in size during dry times as it uses the stored water, so that's a clever design. This third cactus, often just one plant reaching upwards, has these white hairs all over its surface. It's called the old man cactus because of the white hairs, and these help the plant reflect the hot desert sun. So this adaptation is a water conservation aid, if you like. Another adaptation, not directly connected with water, but with survival, is found on something like the prickly pear cactus. There are hundreds of these in the Mexican desert. I'm sure you've seen them on films and adverts. Yes, so because desert plants store water in their spongy tissue, animals will eat them. So the plant has sharp thorns, specially designed to prevent the predator from being able to, well, get near it at all. Our next plant is called the desert spoon. This plant has long leaves that fan out, and they're very succulent, because they can also store water inside. However, they're also usually very tough, and this helps keep the water inside and also makes them less tasty.
With the advent of science, many of the world's horrors have been put to rest. Diseases which used to wipe out large numbers of humans have been wiped out or at least kept in check. Feats thought to be impossible such as air travel, space exploration and computers just a few decades ago, have become so common today that no one is even surprised of them anymore. Every home is filled with all sorts of modern comforts like television, vacuum cleaner and washing machine which make our lives so pleasant and safe. Almost all aspects of our lives have been improved by some scientific breakthrough.
This world of ours is an old world and has gone through several trials and tribulations. In the known history of man, there have been many wars, most of which were fought with primitive weapons which can only kill comparatively few people at a time and cause no irrecoverable damage to the earth itself. From this century, things have been quite different. The First World War saw that war can indeed be at large scale and millions can die. The end of the World War II set war on a totally new footing. The discovery and merciless use of the atomic bomb on a country that was already losing the war, confirmed that man was prepared to go to any lengths to get what he wants.
Religion has always been in charge of social morals, and it is still common to see that many people live exactly as religion prescribes they should. But this is a tendency that is fast losing ground. Followers of religions are getting fewer and fewer. As education throughout the world is brought to more and more people, especially education with regards to science, people begin to question age-old beliefs. The proof of their senses become more important than adages and words of wisdom stated centuries earlier by ancestral wise men. Also, people began to realize that religion is mostly otherworldly. Since the other world is theory and the world of science is here for us to touch, see and live, reality often wins against idealism.
The greenhouse effect, by definition, is the process by which the atmosphere is assailed by an excess of carbon dioxide. What happens is that carbon dioxide released in large quantities by industry collects at the lower part of the Earth's upper atmosphere. Because of this, part of the heat that is reflected by the Earth is absorbed by this carbon dioxide and returned to Earth as heat. This shield, so to speak, lets the sunlight through to the Earth but prevents some of the heat from the Earth from escaping beyond it. It is believed that the Earth's climates will change with an increase in temperature by 5 to 9 degrees by about the year 2050. This heat will cause the release of poisonous gases on an unwary Earth and in addition melt the polar ice and glaciers throughout the world and cause flooding.
The most important reason why poverty exists in the world is mental attitude. In many so-called poor countries, the people are just too lazy to work. There are generations who have fed themselves by begging, and they do not see the reason to break out of a method that has fed them. In many Asian countries, there is a shortage of farm workers but millions are begging in the cities. In relation to this, sometimes, it is culture that keeps people in certain mental attitude and keeps them poor. For example, in India, it has been estimated that there is enough wealth in the temples which if distributed can solve the poverty problem immediately. Yet this sacred wealth is untouched for centuries. It does not seem to be sensible for people to be begging outside a temple when all the riches in the world are just within the temple nearby.